Georgians, come on down to the front. We got some things to talk about. The Georgia State Board of Elections is up to some shenanigans, and we need to talk about it. So you probably heard about it. I'm just here to quickly let you know what's going on. On yesterday, the elections board here in the state of Georgia, they met and they passed a new rule. And the new rule is that on election day, those votes must be hand counted in addition to the counting that the voting machines do automatically. And then I guess towards the end, there's going to be some sort of comparison. Why? I don't know. The only thing that I suspect is it's to create chaos, and it is to slow down the vote totals. And all of that is a form of suppression, and it is to support Donald Trump. Okay, so I got this article from Democracy Docket. Here is what they are saying in regards to what went down at this hearing, this meeting that took place on yesterday. So right before the vote occurred, one of the members that sits on the board by the name of Fever expressed his opposition to this new rule that they wanted to implement, saying that most of the election officials who have reached out to him are opposed to the new rule. Quote, I do think it's too close to the election. I think that it's too late to train a lot of poll workers that have already started their training processes. I think there's a lack of resources, end quote. Poll workers have begun their training, but they've begun their training on the rules prior to this new rule that they implemented on yesterday. And so those processes were based on the electronic system. But now they've thrown, these board members have thrown a monkey in the wrench, and that is by design. Are there resources available to now train all of these poll workers based on this new rule that they now want to implement? And will they be adequately trained to make sure that this new rule and any processes that have to be implemented as a result will go off without a hitch? No, I don't think so. So I agree with Mr. Fervor. He goes on to say that he's also going on to say that the passing of this new rule, it oversteps the authority of this board. They are not authorized to implement these types of rules. Quote, this board is an administrative body, not a legislative body. If the legislature had wanted this, they would have put it in the statute. This board is not here to make law. We're here to interpret law, and I don't see any place in the statute where it mentions hand counting the ballots after they come out of the machines, end quote. So I guess their thought process is, see, when we vote, we go in, we vote on an electronic machine, and once we cast our vote and we finish our voting process, we hit complete, and the machine prints out a report of how we cast our vote. We then go over to another machine. There's a QR code. There's some type of code, a barcode on that printout. And we feed that printout into that machine, and it counts our vote. And at the end of the day, or at the end of the voting process, it tallies up all of the votes for this candidate versus that candidate, Easy process. And so now what the board has voted to do, in addition to that process, now they have to figure out a process to run in addition to that, that incorporates hand counting of those same ballots. And what this board member is saying is that none of this is in the statute. And the way that they are trying to implement this rule, they're trying to make it as a legislative statute when they don't have that type of authority. They are just there to interpret the legislative laws that are already on the books. They are there to make sure that the counties in this state are following the rules, the legislative policy that is already on the books. This man was dismissed. His concerns was dismissed by another person sitting on the board. This board is made up of 5 people. 3 of them are sycophants for Donald Trump. They are in Donald Trump's pockets. 2 of them, one is a Republican, one is a Democrat. They are trying to work on fairness to make sure every person's vote is counted accurately. Quote, "What I don't want to do is set a precedent that we are okay with speed over accuracy." End quote. That is one of the Donald Trump sycophants that is stating this. So they are trying to say they want to make sure that the vote counts are accurate. How are you making sure the vote counts are accurate when you are throwing a wrecking ball into the current process 47 days before we head out to vote? It goes on to talk about, other things as far as a memo that was sent out where the attorneys for the state have issue with this new rule. A memo was sent out by one of the attorneys where it stated that in this memo, Carr, which is the attorney, explained that this hand counting rule is not tethered to any statute. So it's likely the precise type of impermissible legislations that agencies cannot do. So I foresee lawsuits coming up. The ACLU has already put out a statement stating that they are watching and they are disheartened by what the State Board of Elections is trying to do. I'm sure the ACLU will file a lawsuit. The Democrats in the state are not happy with what they are trying to do. They will file their lawsuits. We'll see how it shakes out in the end. But in the meantime, we must do what it is that we need to do to make sure that Madam Vice President Kamala Harris gets voted into office. We must do our part. And our part is heading out to the polls to vote for Kamala Harris. Okay? Okay, don't let this deter you. Make sure you check your voter registration status to make sure you're still eligible and active, because we know there's another side to this coin. What happened to people out in Oklahoma? They purged 450,000 registered voters in the state of Oklahoma. They purged them from the rolls. So make sure that you're still active. My question is, this rule specifically states that it's for votes counted on election day. So does that not include early voting? I believe I read somewhere where there was some discussion that they tried to include early voting, but they backed away from including early voting, and that it's for votes cast on election day. That would be November 5th. If that is the case, we all need to get out during our early voting period. That's how we can combat that. Any attorneys out there, y'all let me know your thoughts about that down below. And I guess another question I would have is, if this is not tethered to any statute, any state statute passed by our legislative body, then are counties required to get stressed out and try to implement this new rule? Any attorneys out there, y'all let me know. Y'all can get down in the comments. That's where we continue the conversation. The state of Georgia is up to their shenanigans. This thing passed on a vote count 3-2. The 3 that voted for it are the 3 that are in the pockets of Donald Trump. That's all I got. I'll see y'all in the next one.